Good morning from Yummy Bay TV. Wishing you all well today. Sending loads of love to you as usual. I woke up this morning, right? Good morning, Trina. I woke up this morning laughing my head off, thinking about times gone by and the procedure that you go through when you're on the outside, you're up to you no good, and you're doing crime on a regular basis, and you get arrested on new charges, and the process of what happens next and what I saw and what I felt and the reason why I laughed today at it all, right? Now, you get arrested on new charges. You go to the magistrate's court. You get remanded into custody. So in the early days and even white young prisoner days and adult days, right? For those of us that went through it, for those that don't, it would have gone something a little bit like this, right? With the thoughts, thinking and feeling behind the situation you're in. And a lot of men really delusional about what they've been arrested for and their part in it. You know, that the majority of men I met over the years, I've got to say, were absolutely guilty. A small percentage I found in life were innocent, right? So we'll put them aside, and the difference in when you get found guilty being innocent, the pain that you must feel is something off the Richter scale, nothing worse than going to prison for something you didn't done. But a lot of the men that I saw along the years for a variety of crimes were actually guilty. Now, when you get remanded into custody, you go to a local jail where you'll be on remand, unconvicted, because you'll hold your plea at magistrate's court. Your solicitor says, yeah, we'll hold your plea because you could be waiting to decide whether you're going to go not guilty or guilty, because being unconvicted, waiting to go up on trial, waiting to get sentenced, because in the old days, you'd be on remand a long time before you get to Crown Court. And that time in the old days, on remand, it wouldn't come off your sentence. Then they changed the rules and said, well, you know, some people are on remand for 9 months a year, you know, and it's not really fair because they've spent that time in custody. But being unconvicted in those early days was a big thing for a lot of inmates, because you would get your cooked dinners like rice and peas. You'd be able to get visits every day, apart from 1 day a week, I think it was. And you also used to be able to get a litre of lager, a Tennant super lager or a special brew, plus a half, right? They soon stopped all that. You get so much food and you didn't need to eat that terrible food that was on offer in the old days, right? But when I look back on my behaviour and what I thought from seeing others, especially when you get remanded, you're in that local jail and you are waiting to go to the Crown Court, where a lot of men, even though I say 85%, are guilty of their crimes, but are going to go not guilty. In the early days, I was co-defendant on a couple of occasions as a kid, Lennox, right? When we used to get sentenced, right? Because we didn't plead not guilty in the early days, right? I had 3 not guilty cases. I won all of them when I went not guilty. It's strange that. Big ones as well. Really strange. But I pleaded guilty to a lot of stuff. We know my story, most of us. But me and Lennox, when we used to plead guilty, we expected, I wonder how long we're going to get, you know, what? Oh no, what? There's the solicitor saying a 2, some are saying a 3. But we used to stand up with our hands behind our back like we was on parade in Borstal training on DC, and just take it, push your chest out. And when the judge starts giving it to you, these terrible burglaries, people's homes, you're ransacking, ruin people. When it hits home, when he's saying it, but when we was younger, we used to laugh at what he was saying. But in our hearts, we knew that what he was saying was absolutely right. We wasn't laughing at the system. We was laughing because we deserved to get slagged off for those crimes. Now, later life now, we learn the tricks of the trade, some of us. We think, you know what I mean, we could have a go at this and go not guilty, even if you're guilty, right? And a lot of those faces I used to see in those early days, like the reception area would be there, men you've been on remand with for quite some time, and I'm talking about some major figures, right? And you're in the holding room in the morning as trials are going on every day from them local jails, and you wake up and it's your turn now. You're in the holding cell with all of them. Everybody's got their suits on or trying to look smart for Crown Court. I used to think they said, yeah, always look smart, yeah, because it might show that you're not you're not a scallywag. You look, you know, you're kind of not. If you're going to go not guilty, you want to look as presentable as possible, so that it gives you that feeling of coming across. I didn't really believe that bit of it. And most of the big names used to say, no, wear the suit because it's a big day out kind of thing. Or when you're on trial, you know, it's kind of something like going to a wedding or something. Where was the logic behind all that thinking? But loads of men with co-defendants, 2 or 3 co-defendants, a lot of mix-ups when you get arrested with other men, because there's always going to be different parts to the evidence on different parties of that court case, and then you get the arguments. You take that bit, I'll take that bit. Look, just none of us saying, we'll go up there and we'll see how it goes. That's what the old lot would have done, without saying. There's some that will say the evidence is more on you, you take it, get us off, we'll look after you, sweet. Right? So we know that that took place as well. But the faces that we used to see in reception, you know, you sweet, mate, yeah, everything's all right. You up today? Yeah, what are you expecting? I don't know, I might get 3 or 4, but nah, that's too much, mate. And then you come back with a 7 and everybody tries to make you feel, they took liberties there and that kind of stuff. But the faces going on trial for those big cases, I used to study them intently. And you would have believed that everybody's not guilty. You know full well that everyone's guilty, but they're going to go up there and they're going to try and blag it and go in the courtroom where God's watching as well, where you're going to swear on oath and things. A man once said to me, if you're going to go not guilty and you're guilty, believe in your whole heart that you did. Convince yourself that you didn't do it. Because if you're going to pick parts of those evidence bits in the statement saying, well, there's a fingerprint there, that you'll say, that was a movable object. I think I touched it somewhere else and they put it there, moved it. And then there's another bit of ID parade, somewhere where they identified. Then there's another bit. You're going to go in that box and say that all those bits that they're talking about, you're going to try and go, nah, that bit didn't mean that bit. There's too many bits, right? And when you get found guilty, you come back and feel like you're hard done by. Always important to accept your part in things, right? Was it all part of the game? I suppose it is, to try and get out of it and squirm out of the charges that you're on. Yeah, I'm looking to walk today. When's the verdict coming in? Yeah, what do you reckon? You found guilty? Gonna get off? Nah, we're walking, mate, we're walking. And then you see them come back with their long faces with massive sentences, or being convicted and they know now there's a life sentence, or, you know, a big prison sentence, and they look like they've been hard done by. But hold on a minute, you did it. It's weird, isn't it? How you could, but that part of the game then as well, to get convicted as well as getting off. I analysed, I looked at it all. There's no right way or wrong way. You've got to accept if you're in that game and you've done it, I'm afraid. You've got to expect what's coming. They always used to say, if you can't do the crime, don't do the time. They used to have a saying way back in the day when we used to, when you're finishing off your sentence, like detention centre, Borstal, YP, you go, wakey, wakey, rise and shine, do your bird, because I've done mine. Remember those ones, some of us that are old enough, of course. That would mean that we're taking the mick out of the rest of the inmates here, because I've done my time, I'm on tomorrow. You lot still got to rub yours. Do you get me? All those jokes, part of that game of growing up. And in later life, we realise what a shambles, what a complete waste of time, though there was some fun times during it in reality, weirdly, if you get what I mean. But Uncle Yami looks back on it all. The feelings of going into that court when you get found guilty or when you get not guilty, you're like, my days. I remember sinking to my knees and all that, but I had a couple of charges left and got murdered on them because he was thinking, you got off there, Yami, but I got you on these ones here, and you get a maximum sentence for crimes that are not even really violent. One time I got not guilties for a lot of robberies, right? And I had 3 burglary charges. He gave me 3 years, 2 years to run consecutive for 8. And I was thinking 14s, 15s on the robberies if I got found guilty. But I got found not guilty. But he thinks he's reading between the lines. Oh, I never got you on that one. I'll get you on that one, if you get what I mean. And this is the variety of things that go on when you're at the... And when you get found guilty, or when I'll tell you, when I got the big couple of those big sentences, I was thinking, 7, 8 and all that. And when I got the 12 and 13 and, you know what I mean? And I was thinking to myself, it's like a hammer blow in there, in the dock, when you don't get what you expected. And different judges see different crimes different. You could go in front of one judge and get the 7, but on another judge, he sees them as the most appalling nature. And absolutely, I remember when I got that one at the Old Bailey, every single word that Justice Miss Perlman said to me. It hit home, and everything she said, I look back on when I was down in the cells. So I thought, you know what, but she was telling the truth. You know what I mean? You jumped over the counters, you frightened people. They were alone late at night on those in them hotels and petrol stations and whatnot. And you know what? You realise, but it still hurts. Why does it hurt? If you're guilty, then if you feel hurt, then you know you've still got to accept your part in things. I laugh. I'm going to do more parts on this. But it's amazing how men fool themselves when they're guilty, and then they want to go up there and try and blag it, and if it goes wrong, they don't like it. They turn into... I've seen grown men in those courts at the Old Bailey, in all them Crown courts, when you go into certain faces, when they come out and they lost their case, they come in, they start literally crying, especially when they get the big ones or the life sentences, and the case that didn't go as well as they wanted, because they couldn't fool God and they couldn't fool the courts. But of course, I've seen on a few occasions men coming down from those Crown courts into those cells, and they were genuinely innocent. And to see them, it makes you kind of feel a bit better about you going back and doing your time when you see those men. But more on that subject coming up soon. Just about to travel now. Sending loads of love.